my front yard. I'm Samantha Bryant. I write the menopausal superhero novels, and today I'm here to talk about where to find the time for a writing life, or any kind of creative life, really. As people who follow me already know, I am a part-time writer. I'm a full-time school teacher. I'm a mom of daughters and a rescue dog, and I have a house and a family. All these things take up a lot of time, but I do still manage to create enough in my writing life to start slowly building a writing career. So often when I talk to people about it, they're like, where do you find the time? And I wish I could say that it was easy, like finding change in that pen you lost in between the couch cushions or something like that. But no, finding time for a writing life or for any kind of creative life, especially alongside other very full-time obligations, is no simple thing. But it is something that a lot of creative people manage to do. Even people who are lucky enough not to have a full-time day job besides their creative work still have to manage their families because they need love, their adult life because they need things like a roof over their head, and self-care, and all of these things make it difficult to manage. So I have 3 tips today for finding time for writing or whatever creative endeavor you want to find. The first one is that you have to make sacrifices. And no, I'm not talking about a brindle calf under a blue moon or anything like that. But you do have to pick things that you're not going to do because you're going to be doing your creative thing instead. And so it does mean I miss out on some things, right? I'm always behind on media consumption because one of the main things I cut when I was looking for trying to steal some minutes out of those 24 hours a day we all have was what could I take out and not miss too horribly. It wouldn't leave me feeling broken if I lost it. And for me, that was consumption of media. So I watch a lot less television, and I play a lot fewer video games. And I miss those things, but I don't miss them in proportion to the joy I get out of having my writing in my life. So to me, that was a good trade. Now, I couldn't make myself read less because I think reading is just so essential to who I am as a human being. It's how I connect to the world, is through story. So the way I adjusted that is I started reading via audiobook more often and via Kindle. So that gave me the option to fit my reading into my day in different ways. So I can still read as much as I always read, but since it's not a paper book I'm carrying around with me, I can just pull out my phone while I'm sitting and waiting for my daughter at the dentist, and I can read on my Kindle. Or if I also using my phone or some of the other devices in my house, I can have the devices play me my audiobook while I'm moving laundry or while I'm doing dishes, which are things that definitely don't require my whole brain and things that are definitely made better by the presence of a great story. So that's something you have to look at is what are you willing to not do that you're currently do? Because most of us are not sitting here with our 24 hours and realizing that there are 6 of them, 6 waking ones every day that we don't do anything with. We're all doing something with our time. But if you want that time for writing, there's going to have to be something that you stop doing. A second thing that people who find space for their creativity in their lives do is they learn to say no. And oh boy, can that be a hard one. Of all the promises and commitments that I make in my life, the easiest ones for me to break are the ones I make to me. And I think that's just because as a personality, I'm more of a giver, and I care more about hurting other people. I figure if I hurt me, it's okay. I can fix it later. And that's not a great and healthy attitude either. But it's the truth that it is very hard for me to say no to people I love or people who seem to need me. But I finally realized that I was treating myself badly by being like this. So I started being a step more selfish. Now, I haven't become some kind of recluse who, my daughters haven't seen me in 6 months or anything like that. I still consider the people around me when I'm making my plans, figuring out what part of the day is going to be my writing day. I try to choose it at a moment that has the least impact on my family life. Under COVID, we're all limited, but I limit how many in-person events, things like conventions and writing panels and that kind of stuff I'll participate in a month, to try not to impact that time commitment on the rest of my family too much. But sometimes my sister calls me up and says, hey, let's go thrifting, and I'll say, I'm sorry, this is my 2 hours for writing right now, so I'm not going to go. And sometimes my younger daughter wants to show me a YouTube video, and I tell her to save the link to show me later. I balance accepting invitations, big ones and small ones, against protecting that writing time. And the big thing, the most important thing, the third thing, writers who find time to write do it by committing. You have to really commit. As a child and as a young woman, I always wrote, but I wrote haphazardly. I might write, an entire chapter of something one day, and then I might not write again for 3 weeks. I might finish editing poems for an afternoon and then not write again for 2 months. And when I was writing new material, it was kind of like the when inspiration strikes kind of thing. So it was whenever the urge to writing was so strong that it couldn't be overcome by petty considerations. And so that meant that when I got to be 42 years old, I had not really finished anything. I had started working on developing a little bit more discipline by joining a critique group. That really helped me because it gave me external deadlines. The people in the critique group were expecting me to have produced words that we could all discuss at our meeting by a certain date and turn them in. And that external pressure was enough to keep me going more regularly, but it was still not really, really regular. But when I turned 42, that was a crisis year for me. I think most people have some age they hit where they're like, oh no, I was supposed to have done so much before I hit that age. I've seen people panic over turning 20. I've seen people panic over turning 30 or 40 or 50, whatever the magic age is for you. For me, it was 42. I blame Douglas Adams for this. Douglas Adams in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy told us all that 42 is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. And here I was at 42, this girl who was always going to be a writer, who had a handful of very small publications and hadn't finished any big projects. And I decided that this was the moment then. It was time for me either to commit and make a real go of it, or to admit that I was never going to, that I wasn't serious about it. And so I found the Magic Spreadsheet. So the Magic Spreadsheet is literally a spreadsheet. It's also a community on Facebook. I think I heard about it through probably Mur Lafferty's I Should Be Writing podcast. And what it does is you set a goal for yourself for a word count or a number of pomodoros of writing time that you're going to do every day, and you track it in this spreadsheet that is seen by everybody else who's also using it. And it tracks for you how many days in a row you meet your goal, and it gives you points for having met your goal on that day, and also points for how many days are in your chain. And I found this really, really helpful. The bottom level for participating is 250 words a day. That's like one page. And 250 words a day doesn't sound like much, but if you really did write 250 words every day across a year, you would have written a novel's worth of words by the end of the year. And that was an important realization for me. I was like, okay, so writing a novel doesn't mean that you shut yourself away in a cabin in the woods and do nothing else for 3 months until it's done. You can work on it incrementally, the same way that you work on painting the walls in your office, where you have one day where you sand and another day where you put up the tape and another day where you prime, right? You just pick these small steps and you move forward. So doing that was an important commitment for me, and the Magic Spreadsheet continues to work for me. At this point, my writing chain is 7 years long. So every day for 7 years, I have written at least 250 words. Sometimes they weren't good words. Sometimes I had to throw those words away. But getting that far is part of the process too. You have to have something before you can edit it and make it into something good. So I don't feel like I really necessarily need the Magic Spreadsheet anymore to keep myself going, because I've built such a good pattern, but I still value it. And actually I use another spreadsheet now. A writer named Jamie Raintree has one that she calls the Writing and Revision Tracker, and I bought it from her for the past few years. I think it's $10 or $12, very small investment, but I found it very helpful because it's set up to help you track your word count in different projects. Because at this point, I'm managing several different things. There'll be like the new novel I'm trying to write. There'll be some short stories I'm trying to deal with for potential publication. There'll be what I call the business of writing, which would be things like writing blurbs and doing interviews and keeping my blog posts, writing a blog post often enough that it looks like I exist on my blog, participating in social media, right? So I can track where I'm putting all my writing energy. And at this stage of my career, that's really important to me because it's not just that I need to write every day, it's that I need to be writing the right thing. My energy needs to be focused on the thing that actually is the next deadline and is the important thing right now. So I think one of the reasons these things work for me is that I need some kind of external tracker. I need to be able to earn my gold star. I need to be able to have something that feels like I'm committed to somebody besides just me. That was me waving at a neighbor driving by. So as to where I personally find the time. So when I was 42 and I decided I was going to commit to this daily writing process, I brought my family to the table for a serious talk. My daughters were still pretty young at that point, and so the mommy issue was a big deal. So we had this whole conversation about how mommy really wanted to be able to create something good with her writing, that it was important to her, that it hurt her heart when she couldn't get this done. And so we were going to start as a family trying to make sure that mommy got time to do that. And so it meant that my daughters were being asked to find a step more independence. And my husband, luckily, was pretty supportive of this idea and was willing to step up and take on some of the evening duties that had traditionally been mine and make sure that the little one got her snack at the right time, or got in the bathtub, or that the dog got his last walk, or that the kitchen cleanup post dinner got done. He took on more of that work than he had been doing to try to balance it for me so that I could steal the time for writing. And I found at first that I could not write at home. Even if everybody was really good and left me alone, I was the problem, because I'm sitting here in my house and I know what all needs doing in this house. And maybe I'm a little afraid of what I want to write, and I'm letting the distraction of laundry that needs done be my excuse to not write my words. So what I did was leave. I would go to a coffee shop. I used my library quite a bit. That was a great place to write, surrounded by books, and you're kind of forced to be quiet because it's a library. I even just wrote in my car sometimes, or drove to a neighborhood nature area and sat at a picnic table without a picnic in front of me. And I was able to kind of build the habit that way. And over time, I got better at focusing. A few years later, I was able to write my novel while sitting on the couch at my daughter's Krav Maga lesson. She's over there learning how to kick butt, and I'm over here writing somebody kicking butt. And it was fine, and I wasn't even distracted by what was going on. And it's even easier now because my children are much older. One of them is grown and living outside the house, and the other is a teenager. So they're a lot more inclined to want independent time of their own and to leave me alone to have mine. And I now have an office with a door I can close and everything. I tell you, I'm seriously spoiled. Another factor for me is because I'm a teacher, I have this cyclical nature to my writing life. And during the school year, when I'm teaching classes, my writing life gets maybe an hour or two a day maximum. And in those hour or two, that has to be my time for managing any writing life business and my actual writing time, like creating new work kind of writing time. But then anytime I'm not at school, when we're on spring break, when it's Saturday, right now where I'm on summer hiatus because we don't actually have classes in July, then I can have closer to a full-time writing life. Normally that's like 4 to 6 hours a day for me. But this summer, of course, is strange with COVID. Everybody's at home, and all the things I would normally do to keep my younger kid occupied are not available, like sending her to a friend's house or getting her a camp or something like that. So it's made it a little more challenging. I'm probably getting more like 3 hours a day for my writing life. But still, it feels like a lot compared to days where I struggle to get one. So I guess there's less to manage in some senses because of COVID, but there's more to manage in some senses. But so what it has meant is that during a time of year that I don't normally struggle with my writing life, I've struggled to find balance. But the key here is that I keep on struggling. I don't just let it go. I don't just go, well, okay, it's hard to get writing time right now, I guess I won't write. I accept the need to maybe truncate my writing time, to have less of it, but I will not let it go entirely. And that doggedness, that tenaciousness, that willingness to hold on is important. So, noisy car. So, if it really matters to you, you're going to find the time. It's not just laying around like loose change in your couch cushions. You might have to hack it out of your life with some kind of machete, a time machete. Oh, I like that idea. You'll have to decide what you're not going to do so that you can do this instead. But I can tell you that if you have a creative heart, giving yourself space to create is self-care. Think of it as the oxygen mask that you put on yourself first. It's not selfish to take care of yourself first, because if you don't, then you don't leave yourself capable to take care of the people who matter to you. So by putting on my oxygen mask of giving myself writing time every day, I am a better wife, I'm a better daughter, I'm a better mother, I'm a better dog mom, a better housekeeper, whatever it is, all my other roles. I'm better in all of these things for having spent a little bit of time on me too. And you'll be your better self if you give yourself air, whatever kind you need.